we need to make one final point about the nature of categorical propositions. And this refers to what we call distribution. Now, by definition, distribution just simply refers to the claim that a term is distributed if the proposition that has the term is making an assertion about every member of the class denoted by the term. So in order to understand this, sometimes it's helpful to think back to the Venn diagrams that we use to illustrate the nature of AEIO propositions. Now, when we talk about distribution here, it's going to be different for every single proposition, right? So let's begin with the A proposition. So do we have a case of distribution? Well, yes, we do. So if you are asked what term is distributed in an A proposition, the answer would be the subject term. Okay. So if you think about this and thinking back to the Venn diagrams here, when you say all S are P, you're making a claim about every member that is denoted by S. So if you're saying all cats are mammals, you're referring to everything that we classify as a cat is also a mammal. So we're saying something about all cats here in this case. When it comes to E propositions, or propositions where you say no SRP, we would then be distributing both the subject and the predicate. Again, to think back to the example I believe we used in one of the previous videos, if you say no cats are reptiles, you're making a claim both about the class of reptiles and the class of cats. You're saying if you find a cat, it is not going to be a reptile, so the subject term, you're saying something about all members of the subject term, in this case cats. And if you find a reptile, it will never ever be a cat. So again, you're saying something about every member of the reptile class, which in this case was the predicate term. So that's the easiest way to remember that one. Now when it comes to the particular claims, the I and the O claims, things are a little more complicated when it comes to distribution. So when it comes to I claims, or claims where you're saying some S are P, you ultimately are not distributing anything in this claim. Now the reason for this is like the following. If we have that example where it says some people are early risers, basically, again, to go back to our definition here, you're not making a claim about all people when you say some people are early risers. You're just referring to at least one person who is an early riser. Likewise, you're not making a claim about every person, or excuse me, about everything which is an early riser. You're only saying that, you know, that there's going to be at least one thing which is also an early riser. So it's not referring to the entirety of either class in this case. And so in this instance, an I statement distributes nothing. Now finally, with O statements, or statements where you say some S are not P, the term that is distributed is only the P, or the predicate term. This one is a little bit trickier to understand here, but the idea is, like if you say, for instance, just to use as an example here, if you say, I don't know, some dogs are not short-tempered animals. What you are saying is you're not making a claim about all members of the dog class. There's at least one member that maybe would not qualify as a short-tempered animal. But you are making a claim, and this is kind of a weird way to think about this, you are making a claim about every member of the class of short-tempered animals. And here's why you're making a claim about all of them. Say you have a particular dog. So this claim is always saying there's at least one dog that doesn't fall into this class. So let's just call that dog Fido. Alright, so we've designated our individual Fido. So we're saying Fido is not a short-tempered animal. Well, in that particular claim, you're saying that every member of the short-tempered animals is not going to have any sort of relationship or any sort of connection to the particular individual of Fido. And so in this case, when it comes to when it is in reference to the individual in question, the individual who would meet the criterion of the O statement, then it is the case that none of the members of the predicate class would overlap with that individual. Right? So the easiest way to think about it is that with A and E propositions, S is always distributed, and with E and O propositions, the predicate, or the P class, is always distributed. When it comes to the I statements, nothing is ever distributed.